let's talk about brain speeds and the states that they create, because this is the most important thing that we're going to be talking about and thinking about in the whole rest of our discussion. And again, this is a true story. When I was in the office one time a few years ago, explaining someone's brain map to her, I always explain these brain speeds first so people understand what we are looking at. And then an hour later, after a discussion of how that person's brain was using speed and how speed was not being used well and what symptoms it was creating, she literally said to me, "Can you tell me that thing about speed again?" If you don't understand this, then a lot of what we are going to talk about just won't make sense, or you won't be able to internalize it and be able to use the information to help yourself, which is my goal of sitting here today. So really think about these speeds. It's super easy. It's super easy to understand once you get the hang of it and the gist of it. So I am hopefully going to make it super salient for you right now. This may not be the slide to do it, but hopefully it sets the stage. So the way that we measure the speed that your brain is using primarily is something called electroencephalogram, EEG. And most people know what an EKG is, an electrocardiogram that reads how your heart is using electrical energy. And that's a test that will be performed to see if your heart is functioning well. This is similar but different. But the idea remains the same, is that we are able to measure electrical energy in the brain, and that's what we're doing. And this is an example of the raw data. And I'm going to break this data down for you on the next slide. But this is just across 1 second, and it's literally the speed that the brain is performing at. It's an electrical wave. So brain speeds are actually called brain waves, but I don't really talk about it in that language much because I think it's hard to conceptualize, and speed is easier to conceptualize. But I'm going to show you the difference of the bandwidths that we break this energy down into. So here we go. Brain waves. It's the breakdown of energy by speed. So let's start at the bottom with what's called delta. Delta is the very slowest speed that your brain can use. And I like to do in my, what I call my micro TED Talk, I like to move my fingers as slow as I can get them, 1 cycle per second. That is slow. That's what hertz is. It's a cycle per second. And delta is 1 to 3 cycles per second. Very slow energy that keeps us asleep. And you can see how fat this wave is. It's fat and high because the energy is flowing at 1 cycle per second. I present in the world on these topics all the time, and I used to have the crowd do the wave, where I'd have people stand up and I would have them generate the speed of the different brain waves. That works for younger people. It doesn't work so much for older people or adults in general. So now I have people do this, move their fingers so that they can feel and actually understand how the speed is moving. So when your finger's going this slow, it's delta and it's keeping you asleep. We move a little bit higher here to theta, and your finger's going a little bit faster, around 5 hertz. And that's still slow speed. That is the speed that shifts you into sleep when you're feeling groggy. We go a little bit faster and we have alpha, is relaxed and calm. You're fully awake and alert, but your mind's not really thinking yet. That's at 10 cycles per second. So a little bit faster. You're calm, but you're not really thinking. Then we go a little bit faster into beta, and beta actually has from 15 hertz, we'll say, all the way up to, we'll just say 55 hertz for the sake of argument right now. It has a very large bandwidth from perfectly fast energy at 15 hertz to very stressed out energy at 35, 45 hertz. Very fast. So to be calm and focused, and you'll hear me talk about calm focus a lot, when you're calm and focused, your brain is going 15 hertz. It's the perfect speed for you to feel relaxed but focused. When your brain is going 35, 45 hertz, that is stress or anxiety. That's your brain going much too fast, unless, of course, there's a tiger chasing you or if the building is on fire. That is desirable then. So our brains are designed to work perfectly to create the state that we need to get into. So right now, if my computer burst into flames, I would need to hightail it out of here. That very fast speed creates the ability for me to kick my system into overdrive and to fight, flight, or freeze. That's what it's called. So I would choose to flee in that case if my house was on fire, if my building was on fire. I would hightail it out of here. If I was in shock, I might freeze. And we'll get to that discussion. But the idea is that the brain and that very fast energy creates stress. We do not want to get stuck there. And yes, I'm implying that brains get stuck in these speeds because they do. And we'll talk about that in the next lesson. Gamma, we're not really going to talk about gamma too much. Gamma is awesome. It's epiphany state. I feel like I may have accomplished it once. I was measuring my gamma for a while to see if I could get into a gamma state, and I never measured it with any amount of viability. I believe when people can tap into gamma, that is a gift that they have, and that a gift can then also be honed. So we know people who meditate consistently over a long time, when they quiet their mind down and make it go slower, they can actually slide into gamma for epiphany states and have these wonderful active thought states. But we're not going to talk about it for our discussion. For our discussion, we are going to stay focused on delta, extra slow speed, theta, slow speed, alpha, medium speed, beta, low beta, perfectly fast speed, and high beta, stressy speed. Okay. So hopefully you get that, and hopefully you can see the difference in the waves. Delta's real fast, and high beta's real tight, and we're going to look at it on some raw data. So coming up next is neurological regulation, how our brains use speed well when it's performing well, and then we'll get to neurological dysregulation. So I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks.